Welcome to the Awake Space. I'm Lori Rivers. I'm your astrologer, your metaphysician, and your coach on all things energetic, all things astrology. So I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to make this episode, but I am. I have been inspired. That's part of this transit that I'm going to talk about at the higher levels of the game. But I saw some concerning things online tonight, both in conversations, in message boards, and on TikTok. And I think it is really important that we grab hold of our consciousness and we are deliberate in our non-reactiveness. And there is a difference between like tuning everything out and tuning up and choosing to be more thoughtful and deliberate in how we deal with life. So the moon is now in Taurus, and it will first square off with Saturn. And so the minute it slid into Aquarius, because of where Saturn is right now, it is in an approaching square, which makes things a little gritty. People are making decisions left, right, and center. But are you making the right one, or are you knee-jerk reacting? You know, are you really making the right decision for you? Are you defaulting into an old habit? Because you know what I saw out of a lot of very, very spiritually committed people was a whole lot of, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm going to take my ball and go home. Instead of innovating. Like, I saw people quitting stuff all over the place, and I'm not going to do this anymore, or denouncing things. Now, hear me out. There's bogus shit out there. Denounce the hell out of it. But why would you let go of something you want to do or you thought was important because there's other people without ethics out there? How the fuck does that work? You know, it really bugs me, the righteous indignation quitting because you don't share the same lack of ethics. So these people are all crooks and scoundrels, and I don't want to be like them, so I'm not going to do this. So don't fucking be like them. Be better than them. You know, when I quit the professional organizations, I didn't quit being an astrologer. I quit hanging out with a bunch of jerks. But I didn't stop doing what I loved or what I enjoyed. There's a lot of people who call themselves something, whether it's a psychic or a tarot reader or a lawyer. There's medical professionals out there claiming false information, putting lives at risk. We're going to say every medical professional is like them. So do we want the good doctors and nurses to quit because there's unethical people out there saying that the vaccines hurt people? Do we want the good doctors and nurses quit because of that? I hope not. Jesus. This is me unfiltered, guys. I'm a little wound up because this is all getting really close to my own Saturn. My Saturn is square Saturn and Aquarius right now. And I know, not wanting to be associated with those people. I hear you. We don't want to be judged by association. But that's also why I've been telling you, tune up. Tune up, tune up, tune up, tune up. Be deliberate in your consciousness. Be the best you can be. Be innovative, be inspired. But by God, why would you cut your nose off to spite your face? Makes no sense to me whatsoever. None. If you love something, pursue it. That's what we're going to be talking about right now. We need disruptors. We need innovators. We need evolutionaries. I like that. Because you know what? I don't want revolutionaries. If we get into a revolution, we end up right back where we started from, which is exactly where we are in the United States right now. We became everything that revolution was fought, supposedly, to make us not be. And that is elementary school history, and that was the propaganda we were taught. But we're facing very, very similar situations. And do I think we'll have a revolution? No. But I do think there's a possibility that this country may be difficult to keep together as we head through these turbulent times. No, don't freak out about it. I'm tired of people freaking out. When I'm talking about these things, I'm not freaking out. I'm not scared. I'm not freaking out. I understand people have anxiety. I used to have anxiety. Take a breath and understand there's things outside of our control. But I'm telling you what is inside of your control and what you can do. That's what we want to focus on. Focus on what you can control. Trying to hold on to shit that doesn't work? No. Rebelling against your own desires? Hell no. Disenfranchising yourself? Oh, come on, guys. Don't do that. Just don't do it. Don't disenfranchise yourself. Whatever you do, don't do that. You know, if everybody spent a little more time innovating and saying, how can I do this differently? How can I live more joyfully? Everybody thinks they have to have more money in order to do the innovation. But have you considered that some of the deepest innovation you can do is social? I read for a young woman this week who has had unbelievable amounts of scarcity in her life, insecurity, whether it was food or housing. She had an amazing outlook on life. It wasn't false positivity at all. She was very realistic. She was very aware of her situation. She had been aware since she was a very small child. And yet she networks like a pro. And she may not be able to spend a lot of money on something, but she sure as hell looks good and makes sure she looks good and finds ways to make that happen by hook or by crook. That's what I'm talking about. Innovate, pivot, and be adaptable. If you think there is only one way for things to happen in this world, you are sadly mistaken. I saw experienced spiritual folk last night banging the drums of war and warning. God, why would you feed the energy? Is it a potential? Yes. It is. But so too is circumstances becoming such in which that is not as possible or plausible to have a global effort. And to think that knowing what we know as experienced energy workers about thought forms and the strength of them. Now, for those of you wanting to check it all in because there are people who aren't doing what you're doing, I want you to take note of what I'm about to say next. I'm not going to say I don't associate with them. I understand what it's like to be pulled into the vortices of thought forms. But when I saw that same information and I had my own oh fuck moment, I went, wait a minute. I need to tune up here a little bit because I happen to know that when I'm in alignment with my higher self, amazing things occur. And the same goes for you. It's not false positivity to know that there's a range of possibilities and I can tune to the one I prefer. Tune to the one I prefer I want to look for adaptability. I want to look for the innovators. And it's easy to get sucked into the mass consciousness and to the fear. It is so freaking easy. And it's really easy because we're all so trained because of television to tune into that. They used our natural proclivity to look for danger signals because it's a survival mechanism. And then they expounded onto it to get all of our attention focused on one thing instead of actual stuff. I'm putting my focus on the water protectors. That's what I want to do. That's who I want to look at. That's what I want to support. I'm putting my focus on helping people understand their value, because you're really hard to manipulate when you know your value. It's the most subversive thing I can do is help you know your value. And we need everybody knowing their value right now, as many people as we can get. And we need to tune into that and focus on that. I give my predictions about mass consciousness because it proves my credibility. But so too do my personal forecasts. And all of you have victories to share. Focus on those, even if they're little ones. So we're going to talk about the moon conjuncting Uranus and what that means and how you can use this as inspiration to disrupt your social cultural programming. That's up, as well as our patron shout outs. And going to talk a little bit about what's going on the website because it's getting cool. Okay, around noon today, the moon will be in an approaching conjunction to Uranus. It'll be about 7 degrees away. And for you non-astrological folk, that means things are going to start to get a little wacky because Uranus is the planet of surprise, disruption, illumination. It's a little different. It's unique. It's disruptive, and it's revolution. So, yeah, we'll see more stuff out of Afghanistan at the lowest level. We might see other surprise stuff around the world. Breathe through it. Yes, it is tragic. We don't know what the soul agreements of people are involved. It's not our place to judge that. And I know that sounds cold and it sounds harsh. It's not through lack of compassion that it comes, but rather through experience. I remember as a young woman being in West Africa, seeing the abject horror of what our multinational companies do overseas. And it devastated me. And I disenfranchised myself because of it. I realized that I was a part of the problem regardless of what I did to try to make things better, because by virtue of birth, I was a contributor. And that was a problem. So, don't do that. It was a long walk to get out of that hole I dug for myself. Uranus helped me because Uranus is the planet of surprise, disruption, adaptation. It governs humanity. It's the modern ruler of Aquarius, and it shows us at our higher consciousness, and please tap into that level of it. I know they call it revolution because of the era in which it was first seen by Sir Isaac Newton, who was an astrologer. It isn't evolution, but it is change, and we need change. And sometimes in order to get to the good change, it gets ugly. I learned that as a really young person when my abuse stopped in probably the worst possible way it could stop. I won't talk about it because it's going to trigger people, and I don't want to trigger people, and I don't want people to feel bad for me, and it's not a fun story to hear. It doesn't bother me to tell it. It's just not a fun one to hear. But let's just assume it's the worst possible way to have it found out, to have the trauma stop. And by God, it was ugly. And it was sad, and I was embarrassed and ashamed. I internalized a lot of blame, and that was further enhanced by other people involved. Guys. And yet, it was through that experience that I understood that sometimes things just aren't easy. And to get to the change we need, sometimes it's going to be not as pleasant as we'd like it. Especially the less control we have over the situation, the less agency we have. Which is why I try to teach you about how much agency you do. If I knew then what I knew now, it would have been a different story. So, we've got the moon conjunct Uranus today. It'll be approaching that conjunction around noon. It will take 14 hours to be fully conjunct, which means the 28th, which means about 2 in the morning Pacific. So there's probably going to be some stuff happening overseas. We'll probably see some seismic action. I've written about that on Patreon. It's also up in the Astro Adventures on my website. If you don't like Patreon, join me over on my website. More and more membership stuff is coming out there. Super exciting. Super exciting. Gonna have a new app out soon. Hopefully this week. I just have to get some housekeeping done. So it's gonna be nice. Let's see. We have today bunch of different stuff. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's see. I'm just looking at the chart. Give me a second. So, the seismic stuff, I don't think it'll be a big one. If it is, it'll probably be offshore. And possibly once the moon is separating off of Uranus, where it's in sextile to Neptune. It's a possibility. So again, with Uranus in Taurus, we're going to see more earthquakes and stuff like that. That's just part of the Earth's process. It's not necessarily fun to live through. But I don't see any big ones coming, onshore or on land for a bit. So in a bit, I mean, maybe 2022, most likely 2023. So make sure you're prepared, but not scared. Scared doesn't help. Fear robs you of the present moment, because the more you're afraid about the future, the less you're living right now. And honestly, all you ever have is right now. I get asked about anxiety a lot. The more present you can be, the better. And looking at your present moment in this right now. I keep talking about it, but be right now. Because that's where the inspiration is. I had a huge burst of inspiration this morning. I woke straight up, sat up, got a whole entire new section of the class I'm teaching recorded for the students in my live class so they can watch it before our bonus session, because I've done a bonus session, because 4 weeks is an incredibly short time for a class. So I was like, okay, let me give this bonus that ties things together. And I'll do this recording that gives people a step-by-step process. Now that they've got the building blocks, this is how we put those building blocks together. And some very sage advice, such as Don't try to think you're going to be fluent reading a chart after a 4-week class. You're getting started. You're getting started. So that's the way. But that's the way. So, you want to know what's going to happen for your rising sign? Go to my website. Go to Astro Adventurers. Unless you're a patron, then go and head over to Patreon. As soon as I have coupons available, that we're going to migrate you guys over to my website, and we'll do something a little different with Patreon. Or we'll just do it off my website. I haven't decided. You guys can let me know. But I'm loving the website stuff now. So my web service has increased the usability greatly. So anyway, it's time to be innovative. If you're feeling stuck, this is a great day to get unstuck, but you need to be creative. Stop the old patterns. It's so important to stop the old patterns. Disrupt yourself. Disrupt yourself. If you have this way you've always been, or because you have pathways, even from trauma, you can disrupt yourself. You have a lot more power than you think you do. And worry robs you of your power. It doesn't do a damn thing. It doesn't do a damn thing except make you miserable. And I'm not saying you don't have reasons. But things can and do work out. I know. I've been in so many pickles. Oh my God. If I were to write a truthful book about my life, nobody would believe a goddamn word of it. They would be like, there's no way you're alive. I'd be like, yeah, I know. I often marvel at it. There's times I wonder if I've lived this life, because it's the stuff of comic books almost sometimes in its extremes. That's what happens when you have a prominent Uranus in your chart. It's disruptive. I love the word disruption. Not in the negative sense, but in the positive sense. God, there's so many things that need to be disruptive. Think of all the isms out there that could be disruptive. We could disrupt them by being loving and kind, by being collective instead of rugged individuals. But you know what you need in order to do that? You need to fucking listen. That's what you need to do. Everybody. It's just like people don't want to ask questions because they're afraid of looking stupid. Are you kidding me? You know what that is? That's educational trauma. That's having been called dumb or made to feel stupid instead of piping up and asking a question. You realize when you ask a question, even if it seems stupid, you're helping everybody else out? Learning to listen deeply is the biggest skill we need going forward. Instead of looking at people as pick-me people, you might say, I wonder why that person feels so insecure. Maybe I can listen a little deeper. Maybe that person feels really unloved for lots of reasons. Maybe there's more to this than I thought. Now, you're not responsible for that person, but instead of abjectly canceling someone, you might want to just ask some questions. Open-ended questions. Not why are you doing that? But you say, how come you feel that way? What makes you ask that? Or if you don't understand what somebody is saying, instead of jumping to a freaking conclusion, God, that is one of my pet peeves. instead of jumping to a conclusion, say, tell me more. I'd like to hear more about that. Can you, I don't quite understand what you meant. Can you tell me a little bit more? Communication is the key, guys. That's why I keep harping on Mercury. If you want to know more about Mercury, you want to get my Astro Guide to Instinct and Intuition, where I describe Mercury. Everybody jumps to Uranus, but you know what? If you don't have your Mercury trained, you really cannot work with that Uranus. It is the higher mind, but you got to have the lower mind trained, and it doesn't mean more formal education. There's plenty of formally educated people who don't know how to listen, and that's why we're in this clusterfuck right now. People haven't been able to message properly. They screwed up the messaging. Even though I understand from a scientific background why they were saying what they were saying, when you're talking to people who don't understand that, it was done incorrectly. And people often hear what they want to hear. So when you're dealing with people who don't know how to listen, you have to communicate even more carefully. Take it from somebody with a Leo midheaven. I'm really, 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 really aware that what I say lands with a lot of strength. And I have to choose my words carefully. I'm a little less careful on the podcast. I swear here. But I choose how I give advice very, very carefully. You will note, like last night on the live stream on TikTok, somebody asked me if you could see, what's it called? Neurodivergence in a chart. And I said, well, first of all, I have yet to meet anybody who's 100% typical. What is typical? What's the realm of typical? But yes, you can. And no, I'm not going to tell people what it is unless they're a professional astrologer coming to me for mentoring. Because it can be misconstrued and used poorly. So that's something very, very important that I feel very, very strongly about. So we have that. That's important. I will gatekeep that information. I won't let people abuse it. I won't tell people what abuse markers I see either. That's my own research. It's not just because it's my own research and I'm jealously guarding the information, but I would only tell trauma-informed people who actively engage with clients and have ethos behind it. So basically, people I train, which, by the way, I do have the new mentorship program starting up for people who want to be professional astrologers and have the professional side of it. So you already know how to read charts fairly well. You're ready to hang out your shingle. But this is the business side and the client management side, how to run sessions, how to deal with situations, how to refer people out, how to understand that you are not a licensed counselor unless you are a licensed counselor. I constantly refer people out if they need support and professional services, whether it's medical, psychological, marital counseling, all kinds of things, because I'm not a counselor. I am a certified coach. I'm a life coach and a business coach, but I am not certified as a counselor, so I do not act in that way. And knowing the difference and being trained in that is really, really important if you're working one-on-one or in groups with people. Super important. For lots of reasons, including legal reasons. So, it's really, really important to know that stuff. So, guys, I cannot stress enough, this energy is volatile. It'll be easy to be reactive. You're going to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't. Just disrupt your pattern. Notice your reactivity. The power is in the noticing. And then choose a third option. Choose a third thought. Choose a third path. There's always another pathway. It's not always either or, right? That's what this square does, the Saturn-Uranus square of 2021. That's what it does. And when the moon is involved aspecting a planet, it acts like a focal point in a lens. And we have Mars trine Uranus still. It's in separation, but that makes it very active as well. So if you want to know what's going on, I have again, it's up on the website, wokeastrology.com. You can go to the blog and see it there. And that's under the membership, so it's gatewayed. And patrons, you know where to go. You've got an email already. That came out in the early hours of the morning. It's going to be a long day, but that's okay. I'll get rest somehow. No rest for the wicked, this wicked, wicked girl. Being all subversive, helping people find themselves, understand themselves. Oh, it's so juicy and satisfying. It's worth the lack of sleep right now. I did try to sleep. I just got inspired and had to get up and work. Again, I'll rest. Oh, there's my friend the hawk. Hello, friend hawk. I don't know if you can hear the hawk. Probably can't. But it's a beautiful, beautiful bird. It's a Cooper's hawk. It's a sizable hawk. So definitely worth the lack of sleep. I'm going to do a patron shout out, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on the website and what to look for with the new Woke Astrology app and why I call this Woke Astrology. So I'm going to give a shout out here to some patrons. We've got some good hawk action going right now. That was pretty cool. I don't know if you heard that. I won't put music behind this because if you can hear that hawk, that was something powerful, and it punctuated a thought I was having. So I want to give a big shout out to Kathy. She's moderator on our Discord. Kathy is absolutely phenomenal. Big shout out to Chris, who is my assistant and also a patron. Absolutely fantastic. The hawk just flew by. Thanking her for her amazing work, or their amazing work, of helping me get all those links out for all those readings. Nice shout out to Shanette, who's been a great participant in both the How to Read Your Birth Chart class and, of course, on our Discord. Our Discord is kind of hopping. To Kelly, also known as Magic, is an amazing channel, a very wise woman, and a very brave 64-year-old for tackling tech when she's not been techie most of her life, and she's doing a great job learning. Let's see, what else have we got? We've got a topic on talking about gnomes right now in the social off-topic thread. We've got news headlines happening. Discussion on the evictions. There's going to be a lot of stuff up. We've got the introduction thread. So, hey, if you're on the Discord and you haven't introduced yourself, please do. Let's take a look here. Get up to, we've got so many new text channels now, but they were all by request, including the pet astrology. People giving some pet pictures. So in the horoscope discussion, people are talking about the crunchies because it's been crunchy. Let's see, what else have we got? Talking about crystals and stuff, and tarot and the awakening chat. People have been astonished as the new people, meaning new to astrology, have been discussing their shock at what can be seen in a natal chart. I've got a reading I did with a really, really good friend and birthday twin of mine that I'm going to be getting up onto YouTube so that you can watch what a reading with me can look like. This is between my birthday twin and I. We call each other Twinsy. Her name is Yvette. So I recorded that back in March before I had to go to Wyoming. And I thought, most people haven't really had a real astrology consultation. So I'm going to put up the reading so that you can see I have Yvette's permission. We did it with that understanding. So none of the recordings I make for you, if you have a reading with me, get used, by the way, for marketing purposes. They're for you alone. If I do decide to go the route of using anything for marketing, there would be releases involved and agreements. So just know that everything that happens in a reading with me is confidential, and that my example reading was done with Yvette's permission to be used publicly. So that's the patron shout-outs. We're almost at 250 patrons, so I really want to thank you. It's quite amazing, so thank you. Alrighty then, let's talk about the website. Let's talk about what's happening on the website. Since the moon is now in my 6th house, as is Uranus, which rules the internet, so I've been doing tons of web work. I'm actually hiring a designer to clean up, especially the mobile view. I know I've hosed that, guys. I'm not a designer, but I'm great at putting sites together. I'm more of the developer side and making functionality, not the code, but just making sure everything works. And then content. And so I've reached out to a web designer to help me out. And that'll help. And so anyway, the app is on the way. This app isn't going to be like what you're used to seeing with astrology apps. This is going to be like all of the amazing stuff on my website will be on that app, which includes videos. It includes blog posts. I'll be writing more now that I have Casey. I forgot to mention her in my Patreon shoutouts, but I've engaged Casey, who is a writer. It was a similar writing style to me, to work with me on the writing, because with my vision the way it is, I'm just making way more mistakes than I want to make, which really bothers me. I used to be able to write a 10,000 word document with pretty much no errors. And so it's frustrating as a writer when your vision isn't what it used to be. So I certainly am very grateful for our writing sessions, and super happy with her work. So we're going to be getting the Astro Guide out. So if you bought the Astro Guide, I'll be sending you a fresh copy, because I've added to it. It's much expanded, and we've corrected the mistakes in there. So again, my apologies for the mistakes. I will send you the fresh copy as soon as I get the copyright page done. And after that, we're good to go. I think that's we had one page where I accidentally deleted something, so I got to put it back in. But other than that, we're good to go. And Casey's going to be helping me on a lot more content, getting the written content done, because there's so much in my head that needs to get out of my head and into writing. So super excited about that. The app itself will be free. There will be in-app purchases. So the app itself is free. There will be in-app purchases, such as subscriptions, which you can see on the website, on my website now. We've got the Astro Alerts. That's $5 a month. And that is pretty much the new moon, full moon, and then when things are changing up or it's a volatile time. So, when we have a moon square Pluto or a moon conjunct Uranus, that kind of deal. If I see volatility, I'll let you know. And then we've got the Astro Adventurers, which is a lot like the Patreon, but the Patreon's going to be moving over as soon as I get coupons. We don't get coupons yet, so it'll be a bit. And then I've got a couple other things going on there, so you can go check it out. If you're a professional astrologer just getting started, or you want to be one, you feel like you're pretty fluent in charts, you have to be able to read a chart. Know what a chart means, what's in there. You may have studied for quite a while, and you're just getting the courage to be professional, or maybe you're feeling like that's your only hope right now, is to to go for that. I've got a mentorship program. I also have a creative business, an intuitive business coaching program that involves astrology. You don't have to know astrology to benefit out of it, but it's also a network. I'm combining the two things I love most in the world, which is teaching people how to be independent and or interdependent or co-creative together, in a cooperative kind of way. Not everybody is designed to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is. And so it's understanding and maybe redefining what we think of as work. It's redefining and maybe thinking differently of what it means to be in your passion and how to hold that up. That took me forever to find out. My passion is people. So, like, how do you make that into something? As much as I love astrology, that's more like my avocation. I think that's my calling. So, knowing the difference between your passion and your calling, I think is important too. And then knowing how to communicate it. And all of that can be seen in the chart, and I'm working on some guides right now that people will get as part of that. That's something Casey's going to help me with. We're plugging down the tick list, whatever it is. So I'm kind of excited about what's coming. It's kind of a lifelong pursuit. So if you're young, meaning if you're younger than me, and you're frustrated with your life, and it's not where you want it to be, take a breath. My life wasn't where I wanted it to be until 2020, of all things. I'm right where I wanted to be. There's very little that I don't have that I want with all of my heart. And that will come. I have every confidence of it. But it certainly didn't look like it would ever happen when I was 30, 25, 35, hell, even at 45. I had almost given up. I was like, I don't think it's ever going to happen. It was a struggle bus, let me tell you. And on the other hand, it was magical. And I can see all the reasons why looking backwards now, because, hindsight's 2020. Nobody likes to say that anymore. I don't even like to say that anymore. And I've got a macabre sense of humor. It just makes me cringe now. We will never look at that term the same way again. But it's a bumpy road, guys. I'm not going to lie. I've been telling you it's a roller coaster year. And the roller coaster is speeding up. And we got to buckle up. And buckle in to our agency. Know what we control. Know what we don't. Let go of what we can't do anything about. Breathe deep and learn to listen to one another and learn to ask questions, learn to participate actively. I know there's a lot of trauma from school and society and what have you, but if you let that govern your life, you're missing out. And the one thing I pride myself on is safe spaces. So please participate. It's going to be so important in the months to come. Reach out, get to know people. Everybody there has such a good heart, and everybody's learning together. So take deep breaths. If you feel like checking everything out today, just pause for a minute, notice where you're at, and then make a decision on purpose. And there's no wrong way to go. There's just more pleasant ways to have outcomes. Thank you for listening.